Okay, to make the most out of this day, I just decided I'm going to start, even though there is still some people waiting or having a coffee cup outside. We'll proceed with our presentation rounds, and our next speaker is coming all the way from the Netherlands, from a city close to Rotterdam. He's the managing director at PLCopen and is quite new in this robotics industry. This role which he owns right now is his for 2 years now, but before he was in the logistics industry and he ran project managements there. And I asked him just before, what comes to his mind when he's thinking of robotics, and I loved his quote when he said, well, it's kind of like science fiction coming to reality. You create something to create something else. So this is pretty cool, and I'm really looking forward to hear his insights, which are fresh, let's say, into this industry. PLCopen, I guess all of you know it, just gonna do a quick repetition. Global organization which is dedicated to standardizing and advancing industrial automation through open, vendor-independent solutions. And I think this is it. Open for a lot of new things and a lot of new thoughts. And PLCopen continues to develop and promote standards that enhance interoperability and efficiency in automation systems worldwide. Now let's give it a go and get some insights from the managing director of PLCopen, Roeland Hagesteijn.
Thank you, Brigitte. Is it working? It is. Thank you for the introduction. Thanks again, Markus and Gunesh, for giving me the opportunity here to promote PLCopen for a bit. My name is Roeland Hagesteijn, Managing Director, new in the industry, but very excited about everything I've learned in the past 2 years. It's a bit mixed up. I will take the chance here to tell you a little bit about how we came into existence, PLCopen, why standards are vital, the standards that we released, I'll talk a little bit more about it, then the power of motion control. It's the biggest success of PLCopen, I think, the specification released for our motion control part 1. And the core reason that I'm here is because the past 7 years we've been working with a working group to integrate the SICI functionality into the motion control specification from PLCopen. Oh. There we are. There we are. Pushed the wrong button. Sorry about that. New to the industry, not used to remotes. It actually says black, so I should have known, but okay. Where it starts, innovation starts with chaos. And it sounds a bit negative, it's of course not, but it's the way it works. Because to innovate, you have to make new hardware, new software, and everybody does that in their own way. So you have your own dialects, your own programming methods, because it's all new. But once it's successful, the system integrators and users will ask for standardization, because these innovations with new hardware are not compatible with anything else. The software independent and the vendor lock-in is, of course, something that we all want to prevent, especially the users anyway. And that is where PLCopen was born. PLCopen was founded in 1992, just before the release of the first edition of the IEC 61131 standard. It's a standard on programming languages used in industrial automation. And all the PLCopen specifications are actually based on this standard. So we use a specific set of languages in a very specific way. Some years later, the supporting offices in Japan and USA were opened, and our first guideline was released, the PLCopen training guidelines, with the big benefit, of course, being that we could now train people in the same way. And as the 61131 standard is used throughout the industry, this training enables you to go work with any vendor in industrial automation. And around the same time, the first compliance testing and certification was released as well. And a few years later, in 2001, the first PLCopen motion control specification was released, merging logic and motion control, cutting costs, making the ecosystems open, interoperable, and vendor agnostic. And up to date, the biggest success of PLCopen is this motion specification. Some years later, PLCopen China was also opened, and in the 20 years following, many relevant specifications have been released. I will not mention them all and bore you to death, but yeah, up to this point, we've been working or releasing a lot of these specifications in these areas. These are the 6 technical committees, the 6 topics of PLCopen, with logic, motion control, and safety. XML for portability of applications. We have a PLCopen OpenC UA companion specification. And again, these the certified training from the training guidelines. And all this is what Brigitte already said. Something we are really proud of is that we are a true vendor and product independent organization. We have a lot of members, and every member just has one vote. So it's one member, one vote, and it's not that the bigger company has a bigger influence. We are also not sponsored by any bigger companies. So in that way, we are truly independent. And I think I was invited here by Gunesh and Markus to talk about the motion control specification that we updated with SRCI. But I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to talk about our latest training guidelines. I see there's a little mistake. The first edition of the PLCopen training guidelines was not released in 2008, but 10 years earlier even. And that was based on the first edition of the 61131-3 standard. But over the years, the IEC standard has been updated, and earlier this year, the 4th edition was released with a lot more focus on object-oriented programming. The language instruction list was demoted, so it's no longer part of this standard, and a lot of smaller changes. And you can imagine that in 20 years' time, these are not just the only changes in this standard, so it was time for us to update our training guideline as well. And the big advantage, of course, is, we are a small piece of the puzzle solving the personnel issue. The buzzword AI kind of made it impossible for me to predict the actual lack of skilled personnel in the future. But we kind of ignore that. These predictions cannot be validated anyway, so we just try our best to solve a little piece of that puzzle. We split the training guidelines into 4 different levels to enable as many companies or educational institutes to join us and to become certified and to spread the knowledge, so to say. So for who is this? You do need to be a member of PLCopen to become a certified training center. And anyone providing training can apply to become certified. Why would you? Well, 61131-3, I think most people in the audience will know about it. It's integrated in the entire industry in industrial automation. It's so used by so many companies and in so many fields that you could say that if you know all about it, you can have a job anywhere in industrial automation. How do you do it? You go to our website. You can download our specifications there. There are compliance lists for every level of training. And it's a self-certification process where you just mark the boxes of all the relevant learning objectives. You send it to us, and you become a certified training center. So it's actually pretty easy to do. And then we go to the motion control specification for PLCopen. As I mentioned, by far the biggest success of the association. And there are a number of specifications released over the years. Started with part 1, function blocks for motion control, and part 2, which has been added onto it, was more of the same, but just an expansion of functionality. Part 3 with user guidelines and some examples to create motion applications. And as the market evolved and manufacturing got more complicated, part 4 was created for coordinated motion. And then some specific homing procedures and fluid powers in the specifications. And I think the last sentence kind of highlights the success of the motion control specifications, with over 50 products certified over the years by 30 companies. And this is a brief overview of our voting members. And if you imagine the customer base of all these companies, you have about 90% of industrial automation, I think. It's so huge. And as my predecessor often said, there are a lot of users probably using PLCopen motion control function blocks without realizing it is PLCopen, because it's integrated into Siemens, it's integrated into Beckhoff, Codesys has it. So many of the people have been using it, they just were not aware that it was developed by PLCopen. Manufacturing got more complicated, movements needed to be more complicated, so motion control part 4 for coordinated motion was released, I think in 2008. For multi-axis movement, I cannot talk to you in detail about this. I think you guys understand this picture better than I do. But what it did, it enables you to control multi-axis and goes more towards robotic movements as well. And this is just an overview of some function block names that we added to part 4. People often ask me about source codes and complete function block libraries. We don't have that. We just have a set of predefined function blocks, and it is for the users to decide which one to implement and in which way. And there we go to the core why I'm here, the SRCI implementation into our motion control. The SRCI, Gunesh talked about it yesterday. They solved the whole communication issue. Another picture that I cannot explain to you in detail, but luckily I don't have to, because PLCopen only focuses on the left upper corner, because all the other issues have been solved by the working group of the SRCI. So we took the SRCI, I think the project started in 2018, integrating their functionality into our motion control specification, with obviously the PLC programmer as a basis. Because there are so many more PLC programmers than robot programmers, we hope to solve a piece of that personnel issue, of course, making it just more flexible and a bigger group being able to control the robot movements. And the end goal, of course, is to have that the whole package of these quite complicated movements and synchronized movements into one recognizable document. Some of the biggest challenges, I guess, was to make it work with existing specifications. The SRCI had some innovative stuff in their working group, and as the PLCopen motion is implemented in many places, it has to be backward compatible. It needs to be compatible with the new movements, and this is why I think it took such a long time in the working group to make sure that all these new functionalities can actually be done in the PLCopen way. And this is another overview of the extra functionality, a lot of new predefined function blocks to enable you to control your robot and to implement more elaborate kinematics, so to say. I have this one here just to highlight it again, how much it is used in the industry, because it's not just these companies. These companies have customers, and all these customers are using the same implementations or the same specifications. And because of this, I think we are very lucky that we had the opportunity to take that SRCI, because what they did is they enabled from Siemens to control multiple robot suppliers, which is, of course, a great step. What PLCopen now has done is we enabled multiple control suppliers to multiple robot suppliers, hopefully also helping Gunesh realize the implementation schedule he showed yesterday, because now we have even more traction and even more people being able to integrate the SRCI protocol. And that is actually already it. We have the release for Commons coming out in 2 weeks. So after 7 years of work of a group of very smart engineers, we finally have a release for Commons coming out. You can go to our website. It is free to download for everyone. And so please do that from November 17th and let us know any comments you might have. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roeland. Questions from the audience? Do we have any? Here.
I would like to know what was the biggest challenge to integrate SRCI.
Yeah,
that was my question.
Look, into detail, I cannot tell you. I see here Jürgen and Klaus sitting. They are part of our working group. And I talked about it really briefly already, but the PLCopen motion control is used in so many places, and all the new innovative stuff that has been added by the SRCI needed to be compatible with all the old stuff. And I think that is why it took such a long time, or well, I'm not even sure if it's in the industry is a long time for 7 years, because many of the specifications take a very long time to create. But I think that was the biggest challenge, to make sure that all the new stuff actually complied with the old stuff. Thanks.
Any more questions here in the room? Doesn't seem to be the case. So you took my first one. I'll just ask you a second one, though. So what would an engineer or a programmer actually need to do in order to really migrate an existing whatever setup to this new structure?
I think that is the big strength of this update. Mm-hmm. They don't have to do anything new. Mm-hmm. We just have to wait for the robot suppliers and PLC vendors to implement the SRCI protocol. Mm-hmm. And for the PLC programmer, nothing changes, because everything has been recreated in the PLCopen look and feel. Mm-hmm. So they can just do that what they've been doing for the last 20 years.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank you for being so open and honest, showing us slides that the audience probably know more about than yourself. That's quite refreshing.
Yeah, well, the audience is too smart to fool anyway. So.
Or maybe you're just saving face for later in case they ask you questions. You're already saying, I don't know.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Round of applause for Roeland, please. Thank you.